We're going to take a look at how long it takes to do a ride-through of a Westconnex worksite to check for hazards and wayfinding signage. I chose the Cove site because a partial closure of the Victoria Road shared path was supposed to start on the 7th of April. Turns out this was not to be, but we'll get to that later. I wanted to do a ride-through after the diversion was set up because I had a look at the map published by the Westconnex communications team and I wasn't entirely sure how the diversions were going to be set up. It took me 9 minutes to ride from home to the site, and then about 6 minutes to do a basic ride through in one direction. I cut it short because the start of the diversion work has been put back to the 16th of April. If the diversion was in place, a ride through in both directions would have taken 10 minutes tops. When I got to where I thought the diversion would start at the Iron Cove Bridge, and found there was no diversion, I stopped and had a look at some signage on the fence. It mentioned the diversion, but I didn't notice the start date. One thing that isn't clear on the maps is whether we're supposed to ride up the short path on the left to Burn Street or ride down the shared path and then turn in at the car park. On this ride, I went via the car park. I'm just going to narrate this next section's freestyle, so please bear with me. First issue to note is we've been diverted from a shared path where there's not a lot of vehicle movements into a car park where there are a lot of vehicle movements, and the couple of times I've ridden through here there's been construction vehicles like tradies, utes, etc. coming and going, and more importantly a lot of people that are coming down here to do exercise coming and going as well. There's also been some heavy truck movements through here as well, and I wasn't sure whether I was supposed to go through the car park or go where that purple car's come from, and I think that purple car is someone that's come down to do some exercise. We've got people coming from all over Sydney at the moment to walk around the Bay Run. They've got no idea what the local traffic conditions are like. It's just mayhem around this area. It's not like there's locals that know exactly what to do. Now that's where I was expecting to turn. Obviously the detour wasn't in place, so let's just take this alternative detour and zip through here. One thing to notice, of course, is these roads are really narrow. There's cars parked on both sides a lot of the time, and it's a bit of a squeeze. The other thing is these hills are fairly steep, gradients of 8 to 10%, and you're chugging up them on the bike, so you can have an issue with impatient drivers. Now we'll get to this spot here. There's a detour sign up on the pole there to the left. I could barely see it. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to go through here. There's nothing cyclist specific coming through here. It says pedestrians, but is this where cyclists are supposed to go? I got no idea. Bit of a narrow path here, might be an issue with two-way traffic, but hey, I don't know if there's much that can be done about that. And we finally pop back out onto Victoria Road, where there's an absolute mayhem of line markings and stuff on the road you've got to watch out for. And it looks like a whole bunch of new signs have been put in. I can see some of these have been cemented in and some of them have been bolted in. And some of them, these new signs that have been put in, I wouldn't call the placement of the poles to be particularly intelligent. Like this one here. I mean, look at that. I mean, who puts a sign up like that with a pole in the middle of the path? And this thing, this variable message sign, look at the gap that's been left down the side here to get past. What the heck is that doing there? I have no idea. And here's another double pole sign, again taking up a heck of a lot of real estate in the middle of the path. And I didn't bother going all the way up to Victoria Road. I thought this is enough, we'll do a U-turn, let's go back down the hill and have a look at these once again. And imagine coming down here and okay, maybe the sign's been here for some time, but that's flipping screwball. I mean, it's really no excuse to then put a variable message sign blocking most of the path as well. Here we do have a new sign, obviously roadwork sign. How easy would it be to just ride into that pole? If you weren't used to that, and you got to remember, that's always a possibility. Would you put a pole in the middle of the road? I think not. So why would you put one in the middle of the path? Now, because there was no diversion in place, I didn't bother, riding down here and having a look at it. I just thought, well, let's just continue down here and have a look at the rest of the Victoria Road path and see, well, what the heck did happen to the diversion. And another sign there, which, the left-hand leg's probably sticking out a bit too far. And yes, here we go, path closing. So I went back and actually had a look at I saw that sign, but this was the only sign that I saw which had an amended date on it. And I did write to Westconnex yesterday saying, hey, can you actually update the rest of your information to say it's now the 16th of April. Another sign with a couple of signs there that are temporary, right out in the middle of the path. It's just interesting how many people there are standing around in orange shirts as you go around these sites. And if someone says, oh, we don't have the time or the resources to send someone on a ride through, seem to be a fair few people out, if you ask me, including people that stand in the middle of the path blocking it for everybody else. Not real smart. Wouldn't stand in the middle of the road. Why would you stand in the middle of the path? I think staff need to be told, this is not somewhere it's real smart to be standing around. Again, we come down here. What do we got? We've got sign blocking about a third of the path, which is just great. Again, I'd put that down as a hazard. Another one here where, okay, two legs. There's already a power pole there, but why make it even worse? You can see here just this awfulness of coming down here with power poles in the middle of the path. Adding more poles to the path is an absolute shocker. Now, in this instance, I've come down another way, come around the corner, and oh, geez, heavy vehicles temporarily parked, and one coming around the corner. And the first thing that struck me here was, look at the size of the window in the driver's door there, how far down it comes. They've actually got really good visibility there. That's quite good. And I don't understand why there are large trucks that aren't using the clock standard, as you can see here, with high visibility doors, etc. I thought these would have been mandated as part of the project. So there's, if you're going to have vehicles driving along narrow back streets with pedestrians and cyclists, surely the sensible thing would be to say you've got to have 5-star visibility out of these vehicles so you don't clobber anyone. This is what's been in place in London now for some years. You can see there's some fairly heavy vehicles there, again with side underrun protection, so they don't trap a cyclist under the back wheels. Now here's a ride through on another day, and I just want to show you the hazard of the drivers coming belting down these narrow streets way too fast for the conditions. And this bloke in this ute, the only reason he pulled up is there was a couple smooching there on the right hand side of the road, you can see how narrow this is. And yeah, he really wanted to squeeze past in a big hurry and shoot down the road. I don't know whether these streets could be turned into temporary one-ways. And here's another potential hazard I picked up. Just watch this yellow car going into the 7-Eleven. Is the driver popping in for petrol? Are they popping in for a coffee and going in for snacks? No, they're running through the petrol station because there's a detour here. And you can see that they're coming out of here and they're going across the diversion where cyclists are going to be popping in and out. My suggestion here would be, can we close off that part of the petrol station temporarily so people can only come in and out from Victoria Road? Just an idea. It's really not sensible to have a potential for crossover of traffic like this. In summary, what did we find even though there is no diversion in place? We found that the communications around the diversion are inconsistent and out of date and not well signposted on site. There's a lack of clarity about which route cyclists are supposed to take at the Iron Cove Bridge end of the diversion. Signage has been put in place that actually creates hazards instead of reducing them, such as this VMS sign partly blocking the path and badly thought out sign poles. We've got heavy vehicles navigating narrow back streets that don't seem to meet the 5-star safety rating system for cab visibility. We're sending cyclists up steep, narrow streets where they're going to be confronted with drivers who aren't willing to adapt and slow down to meet the change conditions. And lastly, we've got the potential for problems with rat runners going through the petrol station and crossing over the path of cyclists and pedestrians taking the diversion. Now, all of that was picked up in less than 10 minutes on the bike. I'll do another ride through after the 16th to check for wayfinding signage. Is there enough of it? Are the signs large enough? Is there signage specifically targeted at cyclists? Is it clearly visible and placed in a cyclist's sight lines? That's down on the ground rather than 20 feet up a pole. I guess we'll find out the answers to all of this after Easter.